Well, fucking A, man. It's been years probably since I've even.
No,
Yeah.
I felt like I kept missing you at like every comic convention for a while, and now there are no more comic
I know.
conventions. So.
I had a full schedule too for 2020, and it's all wiped out, man. I'm not doing anything.
Really?
Yeah.
When was it for like right now?
Yeah, because I had so the complete Fonte Bukowski book came out, right?
Yeah.
Right when all the bookstores closed. Then I had the Grateful Dead book coming out, which I think was supposed to come out this month. I don't know. I think it got delayed.
Did it get delayed? Yeah. Who's putting the Grateful Dead book out?
It's like a co-publishing thing with Z2 Comics, who did that Harvey Picard Cleveland book with Joseph Remnant, and then the record company Rhino.
Oh, okay.
So they've been teaming up to do like a bunch of different like band biographies, and I did I'm doing the Grateful Dead stuff. So like the future seems so uncertain right now.
I know. That's what, like, I was telling my wife this morning. I'm like, who knows? Like, comics could end like tomorrow, basically. I mean, it kind of is over.
Yeah.
As far as like Diamond and like the direct market may never like come back.
Right. But you probably sell more books online than in shops, don't you think?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I do definitely go to a lot of bookshops and stuff to promote. You know, like, and like bookstores are awesome, and like they like actually like sell the books to the people, like telling them about it and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I guess most people buy the shit on Amazon, but I don't know. I mean, I guess that's how most people buy everything.
Right. And you just had a new book come out, right?
It's about to come out. Yeah, like my book's coming out at the end of June. Child Star, and so I don't know what that's going to be like.
This will all be cleared up by then, Box. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I was supposed to go to Brazil, actually.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'd love to go to Brazil.
This shit's so crazy, man. This shit's crazy. How's your daily life? Are you getting out of the house at all?
Well, I go out for like 3 different walks every day around our neighborhood. That's how I get out. But there's nothing to do. Everything's closed, so
yeah.
We go to make our quick trip to the grocery store. Mm-hmm. That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing kind of the same thing. I just like take my son out. We go hang out at this graveyard, actually.
Oh, that's a good spot actually to hang out. Now I think about it.
You would like it. It's a super old graveyard. There's like shit there's people that died in like 1901, but it goes up to even recently because there's like it's like small, but it's like really old and it's all neighborhood graveyard.
You know what? That's weird. You said it's super old and you said they died in 1901 because I'm down here in South Carolina and the graveyard next to me has graves in it from like the 1700s,
Yeah. Actually, yeah, like when I was in Scotland, I went to a graveyard that was like 1400s or something, like something ridiculous. But it was still kind of cool. It's still cool seeing the old gravestones and like the way people like remembered themselves or like wanted to be remembered. Like this one woman, it was like, Harriet, whatever, and it was like her gravestone said like baby's girl, like that was it.
Whoa.
And it was really weird. It was like, and she died. She was only like 30. It was like this dude's wife died, and he's just, I don't know. It was just really strange. And there's like a ton of like dead babies in the graveyard too.
Yeah, there's a headstone here in South Carolina that I think is funny. It says, it's like some guy, and it's like, he died like he lived, a man.
Amazing.
Are you in a home in Philadelphia? Like you're in a house, like one of those Philadelphia houses? It's like a row of
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it looks like. So we're butted up against our neighbors and stuff.
And are there other cartoonists that you live around?
Yeah, Anuj Stresta. I don't know how to pronounce his last name exactly, but he lives in Philly. I've been talking to him a little bit. His place is kind of near where my studio was. I was renting out a studio space for a minute before, for like a month and a half before this happened, and I was like just getting used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But but now I'm back like in my home office, and like I left my good chair at the studio, so I'm on this like shitty chair.
You're probably one of the most prolific cartoonists working today. You put out so much stuff, man.
Too much stuff though. I mean, there's like only so much appetite. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you've been doing that. I mean, that's just your working method. Like, you've been doing that since the very beginning. I remember when I first heard of you was when you had Bellin, the newspaper strip.
Uh-huh.
And then you won a Zarek grant.
Yeah.
What was that book called?
It was called Love is a Peculiar Type of Thing.
How do you feel about that book now?
I couldn't really read it now. It's like it would be like so cringy. I mean, it's just like it's cringy for a lot of different reasons. Like, part of it would be like, obviously it's just like all fucking whatever person in their 20s, like fucking whatever, like dating and worried about all that stuff. But like also I would look at it and be like, I don't even know if I meant any of that shit, or if I was just like trying to be like make whatever, like I don't know, like create some personality or something like that. Like, I don't know, like,
romantic young man.
What?
You were a very romantic young man.
Yeah, I know. It's so weird.
It's so weird. But you had a deal with, this is what I heard anyway, for the Bellin strips, you had a deal with the newspaper syndicate?
Yeah, I was working with, it's actually hilarious, because I was working with Ted Rawl.
Oh, shit.
And he was like the editor. And like I was going back and forth, blah 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 blah. It's so funny now because I feel like it didn't make any difference in my career at all if I would have done it. But it was like so much work, and there was so much editing, and so much just like fucking, like, you had to format it like this really specific way. And like I just remember going through the whole process of like auditioning to be syndicated was like torture. It was like totally like they hold this thing over your head like you're gonna get this big newspaper syndication deal, and it was gonna be you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then like they actually were like, okay, we're gonna do this, but at the same time they like fired Rawl. But and then I was like, well, Rawl was the one that I mean, not that Rawl actually was cool to me then, and he he was the one championing the strip to like get into newspapers, and then he's gone, and they still wanted to do it, and I'm like, this was so much work, it was hardly worth it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I just saw that as like a bad sign, and I was just like, I don't want to do it. And I kind of just like backed out.
How does it work though? Do they pay you while you're working on your first scripts?
I mean, no. Like, you just have to keep working and posting it online. It would be like the idea of it now is so silly, but like would be like posting it online and trying to sell it to newspapers, like to run the strip instead of like whatever. Fucking Family Circus or something like that.
Yeah.
And 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 then like you gotta hope, and like that never really worked. Had that model like stopped working at that point. Like the last comic strip to really do that and make it like into a big success was like Pearls Before Swine or something like that. But like nobody really that came after that ever really made it into like a thing. Nobody was like, everybody wanted to be like Dilbert because he was like a fucking millionaire or whatever. And but like that just doesn't. It was over. Like there was a period of time where like if you were just you know Universal newspapers were like in everything, and they had a huge big comic strip section. They were like adding and changing comic strips all the time. But by the time that was going on, none of that was happening. It wasn't like robust anymore.
Yeah, this was probably 15 years ago almost, right?
Maybe not that long. Was it that long ago? Maybe, yeah. I mean, I guess, well, it's 2020.
Was it
20? Like 13. Yeah, it was like 13 years ago. It was like
newspapers were really on their way. That was like the beginning of like all the cartoons were really talking about that. Like, this is over. I had a newspaper strip and a couple alt weeklies, and it was great. I loved that. I loved doing that, and I missed doing it.
That was like my dream for a while. Like I was like trying really hard to get in that. I was like, I could do this and do that, but I was like so, I wasn't really developed or anything when that was. I wanted to do that. I remember I used to read. I was working in Newark, and I read the Village Voice every week, and they had a ton of cartoonists in it. It was great. There was like, Matt Bohr. There was a ton of all the political strips. It was like, Matt Bohr's and like Tom Tomorrow and who was that other dude? There's a bunch of other political cartoonists.
Well, Durf was one of them. I mean,
yeah, Durf was.
Yeah.
There was other guys too that were really funny, but there was other strips too, like Emily Flake had a strip, and like I remember even seeing like a Jeffrey Brown comic in like the fucking Metro newspaper.
Whoa! Wow.
Like, years ago, yeah, it was just like. It was like the one where I had seen it before too. It was like the one where he is like riding a bicycle when he's a kid, and he's just like he just crashes into the garage. That's how he stops.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. And like doesn't somebody have to tell him, like his brother or something tells him?
Yeah, he's like, that's not how you stop, you idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the
best. But like I was like dreaming about that, but it was also collapsing at the time. Like, I mean, it's totally collapsed now, I guess, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, since I've gotten into comics, it's just felt like I'm like running from a cliff that's like collapsing underneath me, And it's like I jump onto like a small island that's just about to collapse as well, and I jump on it, It's just that's what this is. It's just like there is like where's the solid ground? I'm not sure.
Steve Weisman one time told me, he's like, my career's like, there's this like Popeye cartoon where Olive Oyl is like sleepwalking, and she's like walking like this, and she's like walk through like a construction site, and like she's like walking and about to like she's like on steel beams and shit. And about to like fall to her death, and then like another steel beam comes and like catches her foot, and she keeps walking. And he's just like, that was me every time. Like I was just about to die in fire, and then something comes around. Yeah, like I think that is totally true. Like you gotta like at some point you like just have to have faith that something's gonna happen.
Yeah. Oh, like when I lived in Columbus, Ohio, I was so poor, man, and like I'd always be like, this is it, I gotta go find a job, I can't do this anymore, and it was like just like tomorrow morning I'll get up and get a job. I like would wake up that morning and check my email, and somebody would have something for me to do that would get me through that month.
Yeah.
And that was just how my life was.
Yeah, me too. I don't know. It's just like you're just like, fuck, what am I doing? I remember one time being like so broke, being like, I don't know what the fuck, and waking up one morning and like Ryan Estradas had sent me an email that was like, hey, someone commissioned me to do this 4-page comic. I can't do it. You want to do it? It pays $1,000. I'm like, yes. Like, okay, I'll PayPal you the money right now. I'm like, fuck, thank fucking God.
Yeah, seriously. It's always like that.
Yeah.
Little miracles.
I also, like, when I get really broke, I'm always like, my first thing I do is start trying to sell original art.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, if you ever see that, you know that I need the money.
What about when you did a retrofit? How did you choose the artist for the first round of retrofit?
I think it was mostly like people that I thought that were like making mini comics anyway. Like nobody that was like not making mini comics on their own. And also just like people I knew that I thought would like go for it or
Yep.
whatever. There was like nothing special. It was just like, people that I had met over like whatever the past few years before that. We were also like young and didn't know what the fuck we were doing. I don't think. I mean,
And it
like,
was that whole thing was a reaction to like the death of the floppy comic, though, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah, because like that was all I wanted to make was that. Like I wanted to make, just like everybody else. Like I wanted to make like the Box Brown 8-ball or like
Yeah,
the
for sure.
Box Brown Blammo,
Yeah.
and like at that there was a point where like Drawn and Quarterly and Fantagraphics and Top Shelf all made like these little like high end comics, but like were just little,
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I wanted to make. And then like all of a sudden they're like, all right, we're never gonna make those again. And I was like, fuck. But at
Yeah.
the same time, Kickstarter was like happening, and I remember seeing like Iron Spike's Kickstarter was like the first one I saw, and she made like 10 grand, and I was like, what? That was like the first time you could like see they would like show you the dollar figure going up. You'd be like, I was like stunned, and I was like, wow, I could do a project on here. And so I was like just putting all those things together in my head.
Yeah, but how much did you have to raise for that first round of retrofit comic books?
Was not enough, I'll tell you that much.
I heard about that.
It was supposed to be like, I don't know, like 5 grand or something.
Oh.
Which I was like, I could just print every comic for $500 or something. I like forget even how I did it back then, or like who was printing. And then we like raised maybe like 8 grand or something, and like I didn't know how to manage money or anything, or I mean I had like some experience, paying for my own comics and stuff, but not like managing all those funds. I'm like trying to live. I'd be like, all right, I'll just buy food and then I'll pay back the retrofit fund later.
Oh.
Yeah,
The biggest mistake.
yeah. But I mean, it worked out kind of. But I mean,
But
it
then
was
you have to
just
ship
like,
all the comics to people, and that costs money, right?
yeah, and like if you don't know about shipping at all, like it's like a big rude awakening because it's like so much money. It's like, when you get your first paycheck and you see how much money they take out in taxes. That's like your first day shipping comics. You're like, God damn. It's like, buy another $200 worth of postage? Okay. I mean, I have a stack of books up to the ceiling. That was the other thing, too. Like, Retrofit was like, my whole life was boxes everywhere.
Yeah. Do you miss self-publishing?
Yeah, I do, though. because you have like so much control over every aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like you don't like just like the cover and production aspects, and you don't have to like the editing. Like you don't have to even deal with that. I mean, I do. I think editing helps everybody and always makes like the works better,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also like not the fun part. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you get that list back from the editor and it has all the mistakes you've made, and it
Like
just feels so daunting.
Yeah. I'm just no. I'll deal with this. I like learned a long time ago though, like don't ever read the notes and write an email on the same day. Like,
That's good.
like you gotta just sleep on all that stuff because you're just like the first time you read it, no matter what, you're just like, God damn it. You just like think all the edits are stupid, and you're just
Yeah.
like, who cares about that? Like that's just whatever. That's dumb. You don't want to do like any of them. But like, when you sleep on it and you look at it with like fresh eyes, you're like, oh yeah. There is some stuff that you can probably nix usually, but most of the times, if you're working with a good editor, like if they're improving the work.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's like drawing changes and stuff, though, you're like, I'm gonna have to redo this whole page.
I know, but I like finding creative fixes to avoid drawing. Where I'm like, I'd be like, tons of times I'd be like, well, this page has to be changed so much, I should just like get rid of the page. It's like, is it that necessary? Probably not. I'll just nix this whole sequence out, and then be like, whatever.
Yeah.
Stuff like that all the time. I'm just like, not. By the time I'm at that point of editing, I'm like so detached from the work that I'm just like, who gives a shit? Like, right after you draw it, you're like, this is my baby. Like, I don't want to fuck with this at all.
Mm-hmm.
But once I get into like stage 4 of editing, I'm just like throwing shit out. Like, I don't give a fuck at all.
Yeah. Well, I like edit as I go because I'm like writing and drawing and like researching the thing as I go along. Like I'm like on this journey with the Joseph Smith book that I've been working on. And now like, I look back at stuff that I did like a year ago, like pieces of it, and I'm like, none of this information matters. I have to cut all this out. Like let me just.
Yeah.
That's what, because like when you're in it, you're like, oh, like this makes it such a complete story. Like oh my god. And then when you're going through it, you're like, who are these characters? They don't come up in the rest of the book. Like get rid of all this stuff.
That stuff happens. That whole research, people ask me all the time about like, how do you do the research? And it's just like what you said, like you're just like doing it all at the same time.
Yeah.
You're like writing it and looking up shit, and then you find new shit later, and then it's like you just have to call it at some point and be like, whatever. Everything beyond this, I'm not going back, or I'm not going to rewrite it because whatever.
Yeah. But you also have to make calls about like what fiction you can insert in the story that's supposed to be true, because you kind of need a lot of fiction to glue together all the true stuff.
Yeah, you do.
So,
I mean, and a lot of times you find like shit that's like, it'll be like, these two people talked for 10 minutes and then they came to this decision. And then you're like, well, so you have to draw that and you have to like make up small talk kind of, or like, how did the conversation go down exactly? That's like the fun part to me. But then also you're like, it's also, you're trying to like keep this fine line of like, is this a work of documentary, or is this like based on a true story?
Well, that's the whole thing. Like for the book I'm working on now, I'm going to say, Joseph Smith and his Mormons, the true story as interpreted by Noah Van Sciver. Because in a way, like and I've watched so many Mormon films, LDS films about Joseph Smith's life, and I know what's important to them that's included in the story. but I also like just want to do it like as my own graphic novel. Like it's not narrated or anything like that. Like it's just gonna read like a straight graphic novel, and I'm not gonna try and do anything that I think has to be in there. Except for the stuff that's like necessary that like is the foundation of their religion. Like I have to do that stuff. But
yeah, do a little background for the people that don't know anything.
Yeah. And then do you write notes like I'm trying to figure out if I'm gonna have like a note section at the back of the book like Chester Brown does.
I have done that before. I did it with Andre the Giant book, but I haven't done it since because I don't know. Because I'm just like, who cares? Do I care? I mean, I kind of care, but it would take like forever to write out all the notes to the extent. I don't know. You have to write a note about every page.
Yeah. That's when I did the hypo. I remember the library journal or like the librarians or whatever wrote the Fantagraphics. Like, can you have him add like a note section in the back? And I was like, this isn't a textbook. This is just a graphic novel. Like, I'm not going to do that. But they let me get away with not doing that for that book.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if it adds to the story, or if you really have something, usually if I feel like if I have something that really needs to be like explained, I'll make like a little footnote, like a little asterisk usually, or even just like extrapolate on the book a little bit. But I don't know. I feel like no one reads the notes anyway, and it kind of like demystifies the whole thing. I remember like Durf had his like note section at the end of My Friend Dahmer, and it was cool and everything, but I was like, it didn't really need it. Like, it was like superfluous kind of.
Right.
Because the story is what it is, and like I like just assume that he is telling me like the truth based on his judgment. You know what I mean? I don't.
Right. Or like the truth, filtered through his own memories, which is like interesting. Yeah.
Have you been reading a lot?
It's weird. I'm having a hard time finishing anything. That's what's going on with me, But I'm looking at this book right here, which you probably.
What's that? Oh, Paul Gravette.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll just like open this and be like, oh yeah, I should read that book sometime. But yeah, I'm reading this collection of DC war stories with dinosaurs in it called The War That Time Forgot.
Nice.
And yeah.
What year is that from?
It's from the, I guess, 50s and 60s. It's one of those like giant like black and white collections they put out. That's like DC Showcase. And it's like they use like a coloring book printer for it. It's like super cheap. It's like cheap newsprint and stuff. But you can't go wrong. It's basically the same story over and over again.
Yeah. It's just like dinosaurs and then they have to fight them?
Yeah, it's like these military men are like, we have a secret mission. We're being dropped off on an island. And they get dropped off on an island. It's like full of dinosaurs. And then the dinosaurs are like destroying their tanks. It's the same story over and over. But yeah. It's just the kind of stuff that appeals to like an 8-year-old boy,
Yeah. Dinosaurs are like the coolest thing. My son even likes them already.
Yeah, there's something about dinosaurs that kids love.
It's like, because it's like real dragons.
Yeah.
Like real monsters.
Yeah, when we were kids, Jurassic Park came out, and that was like the height of like the dinosaurs.
I remember when I didn't really like Jurassic Park because I remember I saw it. I was like 13, and like it was like just some summer night. It was like me and 2 of my friends, and we like went to the movies to see Jurassic Park, and like there was like 2 girls from the other middle school sitting in front of us.
Oh.
And they were like chatting us up like super hard, and I was like, damn. But like they totally just liked this one dude, my one friend. Like my other 2, it was one friend that was like getting all the attention, and like these 2 doofuses with him. I was one of the doofuses, and so I felt like an idiot the whole time. And the whole movie, and it kind of like ruined the experience of the movie for me. So now, like when I see that, I just like think about that stupid moment.
Oh man, wait, how old were you when Jurassic Park came out?
Like 13.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the Jurassic Park video game was kind of good.
It was awesome. You'd be going down the river in a raft, and the T-Rex.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
For
it was
Genesis, that was a cool game.
great. Yeah. In the Jurassic Park soundtrack, I listened to that all the time
you?
my room. John Williams, man.
We were listening to the Goodfellas soundtrack yesterday while I was making dinner. It's like all those Italian songs. It's like all these Italian songs and girl group songs.
Mhm. Yeah, it's probably pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. And then at the end, it's like Rolling Stones and Eric Clapton.
Yeah. Clapton is God. That's what they used to say.
All right, dude. I gotta get going because I gotta start watching my son at noon.
Okay, well, it was great chatting with you, man. Thanks for doing
Good talking to you too, man. Good seeing you.
Yeah, I'll see you. I don't know when. A couple of years from now, I'm sure.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye. All right. Bye.